Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer and dismantle a really toxic illusion that's been holding creators back for decades. You know the story, right? You upload a song, some mysterious gatekeeper happens to hear it, the algorithm catches fire, and boom, your life completely changes by lunch. It's simple, it's dramatic, and honestly, it's a super easy storyline to sell. But today, we're going to completely tear that illusion apart. We're talking about building the artist-owned middle class, and we're going to see exactly why chasing those viral, lightning-in-a-bottle moments is actually destroying your chances of building a sustainable career.
I mean, look, we all absolutely love the fantasy of going viral, right? Millions of views, exploding follower counts, that massive dopamine rush of validation from total strangers on the internet. It really feels like you finally made it. But there is a huge, glaring flaw in this breakthrough narrative. It completely skips the part where a working artist actually, pays their bills. Does a viral moment actually put food on the table? Or does it just give you a really cool screenshot to pin to the top of your profile? We have to be honest with ourselves about what those metrics actually mean when the first of the month rolls around and rent is due.
And that brings us to a fundamental truth of the modern music business, and it's one we absolutely have to internalize. Attention is not a checking account. Now, don't get me wrong, attention is a fantastic front door, but a packed comments section on TikTok, that cannot pay for a transmission repair on your tour van. 1 million passive streams won't cover the rent for a decent rehearsal space. A huge view count looks absolutely incredible, but that same artist could literally still be pulling money from their day job just to keep the lights on. The fatal mistake here is treating the front door as if it's the entire house.
So, let's explore the villain of our story and part 1, the viral breakthrough trap. This is exactly what happens when you spend your career waiting for someone else to pull a golden lever.
Think of a platform's algorithm like a landlord. If your fans only exist on a social feed or a streaming service, you're essentially just renting access to them. And hey, the landlord can change the locks literally at any time. Without owning your fan data, things like email addresses or phone numbers, you're starting from absolutely zero every single time you release a new track, every time you announce a tour. You might get a massive rush of engagement, you play a killer release show, and then absolute silence. Because you have no direct way to reach back out to those people, that crowd just vanishes. True artist-fan relationships require a bridge that you own, not one controlled by a tech company whose algorithm could shift overnight.
Moving on to part 2, fame versus cash flow. We need to separate the fantasy of vanity metrics from the unglamorous but heroic reality of actually keeping the lights on.
Because fame and cash flow, they are often completely disconnected realities. Fame is a wonderful ego boost. It asks the vanity question, how many people know your name? But cash flow asks the structural, heavy-lifting question, did enough money arrive at the exact right time to cover the costs of running this business? You can be famous, getting recognized on the street, and still be totally broke. If the timing of your income doesn't match the timing of your expenses, the business just collapses, regardless of your follower count. Understanding this stark difference is step 1 toward building that artist-owned middle class.
Let's put this into practice and run some numbers real quick. Imagine a fictional indie band. They've been grinding it out, booking their own dates, and they finally land a Friday night show with a gross guarantee of $1,200. On paper, high fives all around in the green room. When you're only looking at gross revenue, which is always the loudest, flashiest number, right? You think this tour is a complete triumph. You think you've hit a whole new level. But gross revenue is a notorious liar. It doesn't tell the whole story of what it takes to operate.
Let's subtract the unglamorous realities of the road. Out of that triumphant $1,200, boom, $350 instantly vanishes for van gas and travel. $300 has to go to the hired bass player and drummer. $150 pays for a couple of cheap motel rooms so everyone can shower. And another $100 covers small production costs and maybe some late-night fast food. Suddenly, that huge $1,200 night leaves a shocking $300 in net profit for the core band to actually split. This is exactly why you can't gauge the real health of a music career just by looking at the top-line numbers.
This brings us to part 3, the fan relationship engine. Let's look at our ultimate weapon against this broken system and see how an artist-owned ecosystem actually builds real power.
To survive, you really must think like an investor building a balanced portfolio, rather than a gambler at a slot machine waiting for a jackpot. You need a diverse mix of income lanes. Why? Well, if nearly all your money comes from live shows, one bad weather event or a canceled venue can completely bankrupt your month. If you rely entirely on one streaming platform, a single algorithm tweak can silence your reach overnight. But a resilient mix? Live shows, physical merch, direct digital sales, fan support like Patreon, and sync licensing, that creates a structural shield. It keeps any single point of failure from crashing the whole operation. And this is the ultimate battle right here. It's the fragile breakthrough myth versus a sustainable middle class. The myth relies heavily on third-party control, which basically means you are perpetually begging platforms and gatekeepers for reach. The middle-class reality, however, relies on direct fan connection and cultivating a deep sense of belonging. Think about how real artist-fan relationships work in practice. The exact same person who discovers your song today might buy a t-shirt next month, travel to see you play next year, and maybe even hire you for a private acoustic set in 3 years. That direct relationship is the underlying invisible engine connecting all those individual transactions over a lifetime. That's where the real power lives.
Let's look at a real-world example in Part 4, Maya Defeats the Myth. This is a case study of a fictional artist named Maya, who transitions from a victim of the expense trap into a strategic hero.
So Maya was just exhausted. She realized her live shows were functioning as financial islands. People came to the venue, she played her heart out, the crowd clapped, and then they all left. She had absolutely no way to reach them the next morning. So, she stopped waiting for a label to save her and built a system. Now she plays a great show, and from the stage she offers the sweaty, excited crowd an exclusive, high-quality live recording from that specific tour entirely for free in exchange for their email address. She captures that data organically via a QR code right at her merch table. A few days later, she follows up, sincerely thanks them for coming, and offers a bundled discount on her web store. Her live show is no longer an isolated island, it's an active funnel feeding her career.
This system works so brilliantly because Maya understands a golden rule of artist-fan dynamics. Fans are not ATMs. You can't just demand their attention or ask for their money. You have to offer a meaningful, fair trade to earn the right to continue the conversation. A fan wants to carry a memory home with them. You know, they want to say, I was there, or I belong to this cool little community. By offering an unreleased recording, a live download, or early access to tickets, you're deeply respecting both sides of the exchange. You get the email address, sure, but more importantly, you earn their trust and their clear permission to keep talking to them in the future.
All right, Part 5, Building Your Income Map. Now it's time to step into the war room and map out your own victory strategy.
To build this infrastructure, you need to create an income mix map. This forces you to look incredibly honestly at exactly where your money is coming from, what the actual net profit is, and crucially, who controls the relationship. Pay special attention to the control column. If the control says third party, it means you might get a royalty check, but you have no durable long-term connection with that listener. If it says artist, it means you have clear permission to contact them again on your own terms. If your map is entirely filled with third-party control, well, that's exactly why your busy, exhausting career feels like you're starting completely from scratch every single month. The really good news here is you don't need to launch 7 new businesses at once. Trying to do everything everywhere all at once isn't a strategy, it's just a nervous breakdown wearing a backstage lanyard. Instead, commit to a highly focused 30-day experiment. Look at your map and pick one single weak lane that connects to something you're already doing. For example, test an exclusive merch bundle at your next 3 live shows just to capture emails. Run the test, record the hard costs, evaluate the new direct relationships you built, and review the data at the end of the month. Small, deliberate, measurable steps, that is how you build an empire. The old music industry treated the middle class like this sad waiting room. You were either a struggling amateur waiting to be chosen by a suit in a boardroom, or you were a massive superstar. There was supposedly nothing in between. But today, the middle is exactly where a sustainable, powerful economy is actually built. Your career becomes entirely real the exact moment you serve a fan directly and keep a promise to them. You literally don't need a gatekeeper's permission to exist anymore. By creating your own assets, organizing your rights, and treating today's gig as tomorrow's opportunity, you take the power completely back into your own hands.
So, I want to leave you with this provocative question to ask yourself the next time you step into the studio or onto a stage. Are you building a power grid or just chasing a spark? When the massive attention finally arrives, will you actually have the infrastructure ready to capture it? If a viral breakthrough happens to you, enjoy it. Celebrate loud enough to annoy your neighbors, but never, ever confuse a temporary, fleeting spark with a functional power grid. Realize that attention only becomes a lifelong career when it connects to permission-based relationships, organized rights, and a robust infrastructure that you truly own.